Two people walk into a plant nursery. One walks out with a pothos in a plastic pot. The other walks out with nothing, even though they have more money to spend. Same aisle, same afternoon, completely different worlds. Because plants are not all the same, the way most people assume they are. Some plants you just buy. Others require you to prove you're ready for them first. And the higher you climb in the hobby, the less the price tag is the point. So today I'm breaking down the 7 levels of indoor plants. From the entry point, almost anyone can keep alive, to the specimens that change hands like invitations to a private collection. Let's get into it. Level 1, the entry point, the pothos. This is where indoor plant ownership begins for most people, and it's the plant serious collectors are quietly embarrassed to admit they still love. A mature pothos costs between $3 and $15 depending on the variety. Golden, marble queen, neon. Enjoy. The lineup is long, and most varieties are nearly identical in care. Bright, indirect light. Water when the soil dries out. Forget it for 2 weeks, and it survives anyway. On paper, that is a houseplant. In the plant hobby, that is the foundation everything else is built on. The pothos exists to teach you the rules. It tells you what overwatering looks like. It shows you what happens when a plant needs more light. It demonstrates the difference between a healthy root system and a rotted one without killing itself in the process. The pothos is not the destination, it is the education. Most people who leave the hobby do so before ever leaving level 1. They kill a more expensive plant, blame themselves, and decide they don't have a green thumb. And what they actually lack is the repetition that only comes from keeping something easy alive, long enough to understand what plants need. The pothos provides that repetition at almost no cost. That is a feature, not a limitation. Level 2, the gateway drug, the Monstera deliciosa. This is the plant that convinces people they have a hobby. Starts around $20 for a juvenile cutting. A mature specimen with multiple fenestrated leaves trades between $80 and $300. Those splits in the leaves, called fenestrations, do not appear until the plant matures and receives enough light. First-time buyers often bring home a young monstera, expecting the iconic holy leaves immediately, and spend months learning that the plant reveals itself on its own schedule. That lesson is the entire point of level 2. The monstera is where the hobby teaches patience. You are not in control of the timeline. You provide the conditions. The plant decides when it's ready. Growers who internalize that lesson move up the ladder quickly. Growers who fight that lesson buy plants faster than they can care for them and wonder why nothing thrives. Here is the detail most buyers only learn later. The Monstera deliciosa is not actually rare. Nurseries produce them by the millions. What is genuinely rare is a monstera kept in the right conditions long enough to develop a thick stem, aerial roots that actually anchor into soil, and leaves that consistently split to the outer edge. Most monsteras for sale are juveniles. The plant most people picture when they imagine a monstera takes 3 to 5 years of correct care to produce. You are not buying the plant. You are buying the starting point. Most people also skip the research and wonder why their monstera stays small. The answer is almost always light. Monsteras grown in dim corners produce small leaves with no fenestrations, trailing stems that reach desperately toward any window, and root systems too shallow to ever support a mature plant. Move the same plant to bright indirect light. Add a moss pole, it can actually climb. And within a single growing season, you have a different plant. The monstera rewards people who do the work and politely ignores everyone else. That feedback loop is what makes it the perfect bridge between the entry point and everything harder that comes after it. Level 3, the first real investment, the variegated monstera, the Thai constellation, and the variegata. The Thai constellation starts around $150 for a small cutting. The albo variegata, which carries unstable variegation that can revert, trades from $200 to several thousand depending on the cut. A mature, fully established Thai constellation with consistent variegation across multiple leaves commands prices above $1,000 and holds that value in the collector market. Yes, it is the same genus as the $20 plant, When variegated monsteras peaked in 2020 and 2021, cuttings with a single leaf were selling for $500 on online marketplaces. People treated them as investment assets. Some were, some weren't. What the market actually exposed is that the hobby has a speculative tier, and most people who entered it during the peak did not understand the difference between a plant with cultural momentum and a plant with lasting collector value. The Thai constellation holds differently than the albo. The Thai is tissue cultured, meaning its variegation is genetically stable and reproducible at scale. The albo is propagated from cuttings of unstable mutations, meaning every leaf is unique and the pattern can disappear without warning. Most buyers prefer the visual drama of the albo. Most serious collectors own both and can explain exactly why the distinction matters. That gap in understanding is the difference between level 2 and level 3. Level 4, the statement collector, anthuriums. The Anthurium veitchi, crystallinum, and clarinervium. Entry specimens start around $80. Mature veitchi, with leaves above 18 inches trade, from $500 to over $2,000. The crystallinum and clarinervium, grown for their velvety leaves and pronounced white veining, occupy a similar price range with mature specimens regularly exceeding $1,000 in private sales. This is where collectors stop growing plants and start growing leaves. Anthuriums at this level are not purchased for their flowers. They are purchased for the texture of a crystallinum leaf held up to natural light, for the pendulous drape of a veitchi leaf in a humid grow space, for the silver veining on a clarinervium that looks more like a botanical illustration than a living thing. The performance is horticultural. The motivation is closer to art. Here is what most buyers only understand after owning one. Anthuriums at this level do not forgive casual care. A pothos tolerates a month of neglect. A mature crystallinum requires consistent humidity above 60%, temperatures that do not drop below 65 degrees, and a watering schedule precise enough that the medium never fully dries, but never stays wet. The care requirements act as a filter. The growers who reach level 4 and stay there have already failed with enough expensive plants to understand exactly what conditions they can actually provide. The plant requires proof of competence before it rewards you. That filtering function is intentional, even if no one designed it that way. The collector market for high-end anthuriums is self-selecting. The buyers who overpay for a crystallinum and kill it because their apartment is too dry and too cold leave the tier. The buyers who install humidifiers, monitor their grow space with hygrometers, and adjust their watering frequency by season stay, and eventually accumulate plants that increase in value. Over the years they are cared for. The anthurium does not care about your intentions. It responds only to what you actually do. That is the hardest and most honest lesson the hobby teaches, and level 4 is where most people finally learn it. Level 5, the controlled tier. Rare aeroids and tissue culture exclusives. The Philodendron spiritus sancti, the Monstera obliqua, the Anthurium warockeanum. This is where access becomes a consideration separate from budget. The spiritus sancti, which is among the rarest philodendrons in cultivation, trades from $3,000 to $15,000 depending on size and the seller's reputation. The obliqua, with its leaves that are more whole than leaf, commands similar prices for verified specimens. Fakes and mislabeled plants are common enough at this tier that serious buyers require documentation. You do not purchase these plants from a retail nursery. You find them through collector networks, through private sales within established communities, through growers who have spent years building a reputation in the hobby. A bank transfer to a stranger across the world based on photographs and a reputation built over years of transactions in online groups is entirely normal at this level. What changes at level 5 is the social structure. While the hobby below this point is largely transactional. You see a plant, you buy a plant. At level 5, who you are in the community matters as much as whether you can pay. Growers at this tier have waiting lists. They sell to buyers they know can provide the care the plant requires, because a spiritus sancti that dies in the wrong hands damages everyone in the network. The seller's reputation is attached to every plant they place. The community self-regulates in a way retail never does. Level 6. The specimen tier. Mature botanical collections. This is where individual plants become irreplaceable. A 50-year-old Ficus benjamina shaped through decades of patient pruning. A Hoya collection spanning 200 species built over 30 years. A Monstera deliciosa with a trunk 6 inches in diameter and leaves the width of a dining table. These are not plants you purchase. They are plants that arrive through inheritance, through the dissolution of a serious collection, through the slow accumulation of years of correct decisions made consistently. No price range covers this tier accurately because the plants are not priced against the market. They are priced against what it would cost to start over and wait. The collector who reaches level 6 owns things that cannot be replaced within a human lifetime. A mature specimen of something slow growing is not a plant. It is time made visible. The care is no longer about learning the rules. The care is about preserving something that took longer to create than most hobbies last. These collections do not change hands often. When they do, the buyers already know the sellers. The transaction is less a purchase than a transfer of custody. The plant outlasts the relationship with any single owner. Level 7. The final level, the botanical unicorns, the Amorphophallus titanum in private cultivation, the Rafflesia documented outside its native range, the Encephalartos woodii, the last known male of its species, held as a living artifact in a handful of botanical gardens and private collections worldwide. These plants do not have a collector market because you cannot buy them. They exist at the intersection of horticulture, conservation, and institutional access. Private possession in most cases requires permits, documentation, and relationships with botanical institutions that take decades to build. This is not a level most people will ever occupy. It is barely a level in the conventional sense, but understanding that it exists changes the way you see everything below it. The pothos on a windowsill and the last living male of an extinct cycad species are both plants. They sit in the same kingdom, share the same biochemistry, require soil and water and light. What separates them is not biology. It is the full weight of human attention, intention, and time that has been accumulated around them. The titanum blooms for 36 hours, once every several years, and produces a smell described consistently as rotting flesh. When it blooms in a botanical garden, people line up for hours to witness 36 hours of something they will never see again in their lifetime. That is not horticulture. That is the rarest category of experience, the irreproducible, the unrepeatable, the alive. Outrow, the pothos is the entry point, and for most people, it is the best plant they will ever own. Not because it is the most impressive, but because it provides something the expensive plants cannot. Forgiveness. The space to learn without losing money, without losing confidence, without deciding the hobby is not for you because you made a mistake in year 1. Levels 2 through 4. The monstera, the variegated forms, the anthuriums. This is where the hobby becomes a practice, where care becomes intentional, where you stop decorating a room and start building something. Level 5 is where the community becomes the product. The plant is the entry fee, the access is what you are actually purchasing. Level 6 is where time becomes the asset. You are no longer collecting plants. You are stewarding living things that will outlast your interest in them. Level 7 is where the boundary between collection and conservation dissolves entirely. The plants at this level exist because someone decided their survival mattered more than any market price. The mistake most people make is thinking the plant hobby is about the plants. It is not. It is an attention economy. Every level asks you for more of it, more time, more precision, more community, more patience, more years. The plants that hold the most value are not the most beautiful, the rarest, the most expensive. They are the ones that required the most sustained human attention to survive. The plant is not the reward. The practice of growing it is. If this was useful, subscribe. I break down the plant hobby the way it actually works, not the way the houseplant influencers describe it.